Welcome to the Wild Type Podcast. I'm Lyssa Lizards.
I'm Neptune and Chameleon.
And we're your Reptile girlies. I really just love getting to say that every time.
It's like the best part.
I know. We've like talked about like potentially like pre-filming an intro and an outro or like different things or like whatever. I like to do it every time.
It just like gets you in the zone.
It totally, it's like as soon as we say that, I like click into podcast mode.
Ready.
And it just like, it's just time to go. And it just makes me really happy.
I feel like I'm not in podcast mode though because
know.
I don't have my headphones. And if the real ones know. This
Yes.
is not the first time this has happened because they're noise canceling headphones and I love them for plane rides.
Right.
And the dentist.
Yes.
Because I had to get, we've talked about the dentist before, but I had to get a filling. And so I put them on and I just listened to music.
Yeah.
And like, I can still obviously
Of
hear
course.
the drilling, but it's a nice distraction.
It helps you like block out that like, I don't know, just the icky dentist feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is nice distraction. And so I brought them from the pod to the dentist and was like, don't forget to bring them back for the episode. And
You promptly forgot.
here we are.
It was funny because she came upstairs because she went downstairs and immediately was like, crap, I think I like forgot my headphones. And so she went downstairs to check her backpack and she came upstairs and you were like, they're in my work backpack. And I was like, oh, great. And you were like, no.
I don't bring my work bag. I bring my other backpack.
Wrong backpack.
They're in a backpack, just not the right backpack.
Not the correct backpack. Yeah. No. Well, so unless you've been living under a rock, the TikTok ban caused some serious drama in the last week.
I feel like we just have to like talk about it.
We have to
We
discuss
don't have
it.
to dive into it.
No.
But just like acknowledge that happened.
We have to acknowledge that happened. I also have to acknowledge that you guys will be listening to this, I think like a week or two after it's like happened.
The date today is January 20th.
Yeah.
Because who knows what's going to happen by the time this episode
Drops.
actually comes out.
Yeah. Who knows? So that's our timeline, just so that you guys know. So
this is like a matter of days ago at this point.
Literally yesterday. Like it was crazy.
Oh, that's true. It happened on Saturday.
Saturday night. Today's
Came
Monday.
back Sunday. It's now Monday.
It hasn't even been 48 hours.
Yeah.
So
who knows what's going to happen?
literally no one knows. We are just in the middle of chaos. We don't know on that app. And as somebody who like, that's the majority of my platform, it's kind of wild.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen it, and assuming the app is still there, but you posted this beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
Did you like write it out?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I had to. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I got that. I felt like you were reading off of it.
I pulled it up on my computer and I had it in like my notes and I was just like reading off. I could not come up with that on a whim. Are you kidding?
It was so well done. But anyways, she basically made this like thank you and goodbye, but I was more of a just like a gratitude.
Yeah, it's more of just like, hey, this platform has existed for however many years. I've been on it since 2021. This is everything it's done for me. This is how much like I've changed since I started posting on this app, and it's like all because of you guys and like the platform and frankly, like I don't think it's going to be the same moving forward, whether it's banned or changed. It doesn't even matter. Like it just the golden era of TikTok I think is in the past. And that doesn't mean it's, like we said, we don't know what the hell is going to happen with that app right now.
No, we could be moving into the diamond era and it could be even better.
We don't even know.
Or worse.
We don't know. And so like, I just basically wanted to like, not to be one of those like content creators who's like crying on the internet, losing TikTok. Like that wasn't my purpose. It was just, like you said, like that app has brought me so much. It literally helped me. I mean, I don't think if I would have never gotten on TikTok to begin with, I don't think I would have the business that I have now. Because I like outside of my reptile keeping stuff, like I literally take on social media marketing clients. Like that's my whole business that I run myself. And it's because of everything that I learned on that app. And now I have to have very serious conversations with all my clients of like, well, what the heck do we do now? So,
like, this was not in the roadmap for, for the year
at all. And so it's like, we have to come up with new strategies. We have to assess new platforms that are popping up. We have to, I just have to say this from like the social media landscape perspective, just to like put into perspective, anybody who's not on TikTok, because I know there are a lot of people on TikTok or not on TikTok. social media has existed for less than 20 years, like in general, right?
Right.
For the last 10 of those years, the platforms have remained completely consistent and have not changed in a decade. The only new one that emerged was TikTok, and even that was 6 years ago at this point. So like the TikTok ban and the fact that like people are switching to different apps and like doing all these different things, like no matter where you are on that spectrum, or like if you're a content creator, a business, like whatever, we now are seeing the emergence of so many new social media apps, and we don't know which one's going to be successful. So essentially what happened when TikTok shut down overnight, it essentially imploded the social media landscape as it has been for a decade, and it will never be the same again.
No big deal.
Like, there are new apps coming out every month. There are new apps that people have already flocked to. There are all the old apps still chilling there. And it is the wild, wild west for like people who manage like social media businesses and things.
Because there's no plan, right? There's no rule book for how to navigate this.
And we don't know which new apps are going to pop off and which ones are going to be temporary and which ones are going to, we don't know.
That's how I feel as a content creator and a consumer, but primarily as a content creator, is you have to be paying attention because you're going to have to move quick, fast, right? Like if people flock to a new app, it's from just like a business standpoint as a creator, like the sooner you're there, the better
your
because
shot is.
You're going to be in the algorithm
Faster.
sooner. You're going to have more content on there sooner. You can grow your following sooner, and that just puts you ahead of everyone else. And like, it's not a comparison. It's just the way the game
works.
The game goes, right? People who are on YouTube first, they're like, the algorithm is going to
push
serve their stuff. Yeah, because it's like 10 plus years versus 10 days old.
Yeah.
Same with TikTok, right? The people who were there in the beginning are an advantage to someone who's starting now today, right?
Exactly.
So like a new app brings a new playing field to then try and get ahead of the game, and it's like
it's just crazy. It's like the entire social media industry changed overnight, and there are so many people that I feel like we still don't have answers. We're in limbo right now, and so I think if you're not in the social media world, if you have nothing to do with that, you probably don't grasp how like big of a deal that is. But unfortunately, my whole world, my whole job, my whole career, everything is like social media marketing. So it's like I had to explain to like my friends and family. I was like, this isn't just like a dancing app. This is like, I don't think you guys understand what this just did to my whole life.
No, it's a big thing. You also said something in your little like TikTok gratitude goodbye speech that like warmed my heart. You're like starting a podcast with one of your best friends. I was like,
that was a big part of
it. It's me. And so it was special.
I don't know if we would have like done that if I wouldn't have like been on TikTok and like doing what I was doing and like I don't know. I mean, we met on Instagram years prior, luckily.
Way back in the day. Yeah.
Like it's not like I wouldn't have had you or anything.
No, but I hear what you're saying though, of like seeing the landscape and the platform and the community of like the representation of female keepers. I feel like there's a lot of female keepers who are like really active on TikTok, have a presence on maybe Instagram and YouTube. But I feel like the community element was really
strong on
TikTok, right? And in the comments and in the DMs. And I felt that more than on Instagram 100%. And definitely YouTube. And so I think that app allowed us to see a potential gap in the industry. And be like, hey, could we do something about this? Can we foster a community in like a culture where we can have like female reptile keepers feel represented in the podcast space? And then
100%.
Lo and behold, here we are.
That's why we're here. It's like the whole point. But we would be remiss if we didn't bring up the TikTok ban and all the drama. And
I'm just with my popcorn over here.
I know.
Just watching it all go down. I'm like, you guys let me know what you decide, and then I'll tag along.
And I'm just trying to, I don't even know, strategize with my clients and figure out
as best you can. Take it day by day.
I know. That's what I've told them. I'm like, honest, we don't know. Like, we don't know. We're just shooting a shot in the dark at this point. We don't know what's going on.
See what sticks. Yeah.
So we'll see, but who knows? We'll see what the future of the app happens and how that all goes. But crazy, crazy times. So with all that being said, subscribe to me on YouTube because I'm going to be doing a lot more over there in that world. So please check me out over there as well.
Each of us have our own, like outside of the podcast, we're both very active in the content that we post. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok for as long as it
Which also
sticks around.
Okay, we didn't plan to talk about this, but I haven't discussed this with you yet. The review that we posted on
Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I also put it on YouTube. So.
Yeah. So actually you found that and you posted that. So I hadn't seen it before you posted it.
Oh, I kind of did that on purpose so you could be surprised.
Great. It was so sweet and special. And basically what it was, somebody kind of explained, how we've made them feel less alone in the hobby and how they kind of lost, some of their
excitement for reptile keeping. And they were really into it and then didn't feel like they had the support. So it kind of fizzled away. And then the podcast re-sparked that. Yeah.
But what I thought was so cool about their review is they essentially said something about how they now follow us on all of our separate stuff, which tells me they found us from the podcast, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Yep.
So thank you for being here. I just thought that was so unique because I feel like a lot of our audience kind of knew us before or something. So I just thought it was really special. So thank you guys. We really appreciate the reviews like that, and it just warms our hearts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So if you haven't already, leave us a review and maybe we'll post you one.
We're doing all of our outro stuff at the beginning, but
no, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. So anywho, our main topic for today is an interesting one. We have we've tossed this idea around a few times before of talking about essentially the reptile community drama.
Yeah.
And I know that people obviously like to hear all that stuff, want to hear all that. We've had a lot of you guys ask what are our thoughts on drama situations or things like that. And so today we kind of wanted to address reptile community drama and kind of ask ourselves the question of why is it so polarizing and why does it get so intense? Because it gets crazy sometimes.
Shots fired for sure. Yeah. And to be so crystal clear, this is not us dogging on people or dishing our 2 cents on the reptile drama. That's never been us. That's never been our style. That's definitely not how we
don't roll like that.
No. And we're not gonna the podcast is not gonna change that. No. However, we've been around for a minute and we have seen some things go down and we have had our buckets of popcorn and go, what is happening right now? And it lends itself to the question exactly what you said of why is it so polarizing? Why do people come out so strongly with their pitchforks and canceling brands and canceling individuals and this cancel culture in general? Why is that so prevalent in the reptile hobby? And this is not unique to the reptile hobby, but we certainly see it.
Well, and I think the difference is, other industries and other content creators, other influencers and stuff, they have their own drama in their own right. But I think one of the biggest reasons why it is so polarizing is because there are little lives involved and there are animals involved. That I think is a big reason why it gets so intense, because it's not, at that point, it's not just about the content creator or the influencer or a product. It's it's a weird situation where there's tiny lives involved.
And they don't have a voice for themselves either.
I think people feel the need to speak for the animals, which we're so grateful for. And to an extent, people should, speak for the animals.
I have the Lorax in my head. I speak for the trees.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen that in so long.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to go
You know
watch
me,
that.
I'm always going to make some reference to some animated movie or book or whatever.
Of course.
But it's true though, right?
Yeah.
The animals can't advocate for themselves, and then you have people in this hobby who are so passionate, right? And they pour their hearts and souls,
and rightfully so to an extent. We love.
It's what
passion.
makes the community so amazing. Is what challenges us and pushes us and brings us together, because you have someone who has that equal level of passion and excitement for this animal that maybe isn't seen as an equal outside of the hobby or in the pet industry. And so when you find someone who gets it, that's really, really
super special,
really special. And then if you see someone who's not appreciating these animals the same way or treating them the same way,
you feel hurt by that.
And you're how dare you, right? Yeah.
And I feel that's a really common thing that people feel in the hobby, and that's why part of why it gets so intense is because people love to root for the underdog. And I feel like in general, reptiles are the underdog in the pet world.
And I love that so much.
I mean, like, it's just the reality. Like, reptiles are, you know, people are scared of them. People are frightened of them. People don't like them. So those of us who do have that deep love and appreciation for them will like fight for them at all costs.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
being the underdog is like my personal brand.
Absolutely.
And I love being underestimated.
Absolutely.
Because I'm like, oh yeah, well, watch me. Right.
I'll
and
show
like,
you.
Right. And then so it's like, I feel that sometimes. So funny you say that with my content, right? Of like trying to portray them in this like really positive, really special light of like, reptiles are amazing animals. They can be amazing pets, and like the relationships you can form can be like really special, and not everyone again, not everyone gets it, and not everyone's meant to. That's fine. But when you have people who are sitting in your hobby, in your space, who aren't respecting that's when people come out with
Big
their
time.
Pitchforks.
Yes.
Then you have the added element of some people, this is a hobby and a passion, and like that's as like far as it gets. And then some people, it's a business. So they're in it for ulterior motives.
Such a good point.
Like maybe they still have all those passions, excitement, but they also have to pay their bills.
Right.
So like, do they cut corners? Do they handle things professionally? Like, but they got to put food on their table, right? This is a business, so they can't always, you know, think in the way that they should. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm like, that gets a little.
Yeah. And then, frankly, I'll be really honest, then we also have people who just literally don't care. There's also that.
Yes.
There's also that.
I sometimes forget those people exist because I like can't not care about things. But no, you're right. There are just not good people.
Yeah, they exist, unfortunately.
Yeah. Nope. Fair point.
You know, as much as we care, there are people who don't at all. So.
No, and that is a harsh reality. Like, and again, not unique to reptiles, but again, we are dealing with live animals. And I do think that when you do have someone who at least is portraying themselves or coming across as someone who doesn't care, whether or not they do, that only they can
say that.
Yeah, but like an outsider looking in, that just like gets you going, because you're like, how dare you, right? Like, not do right by these animals.
And also, to an extent, rightfully so, on the person that is, like, the people in the comments who are judging whether or not that person cares or whether or not that person is doing the right thing. The person on the other end of it is also looking at it from the lens of like, you've only seen a 10-minute video. You have no idea what my preferences are, what I like, what I'm passionate about, whether or not I care or not. Who are you to know, person on the internet?
Yeah.
You know, like, I know as a content creator, I've been on the other end of it before, and me being like, you have no idea how much I'm obsessed with this stuff. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I have so much passion. How dare you think that I don't? Like, so it can be like such a weird power struggle.
I have a recent example of that. Really? Because I currently have all fake plants in my enclosures. And I had someone berate me in the comments of like, can't believe you use fake plants. I heard that's terrible. How dare you? You're supposed to be leading by example. And I was like, whoa.
Come talk to me after you've dealt with mealybugs, like, Shannon.
Time out. Time out. Foul the play. Like, hold on. I was like, I had all live plants
for years.
I had literally years until I had this little plant pest, a mealybug, infest all of my enclosures.
Again, come talk to me, random lady on the internet, when you've dealt with the mealybugs that I have been put through hell with.
Only have panther chameleons and parsons right now, so like none of those are like well known as species that eat plants.
Yes.
So I'm like, if I had a chameleon that had an interest in plants, I would figure something out. Yeah. But I would love to have all live plants and bioactive enclosures. So I know the only way to get back to that is to have World War III over here and nuke all the live plants. All my enclosures. Like, unfortunately.
I mean, that's a big reason why, you know, we talked in my little mental health episode, we talked a lot about all the stuff I was dealing with. But the main reason my bioactives all kind of like went kaput is because of the freaking mealybugs.
Yeah, don't underestimate.
Literally,
mealybug.
They can ruin your setups for like, and mine's been ruined for a year and a half. Some of those are extenuating circumstances that are my fault, but the other stuff is the mealybugs. They started it.
And so like this person came after me, right, in the comments of like, da, 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 da. And I was like, okay, but you don't have the full picture, the full context. So that's another thing when we're talking about polarizing is that people have big feelings about these animals, and like,
but they also have minimal view into what's really going on.
When we're talking about stuff on the internet specifically, right? And that's on us as content creators to like make sure we're doing everything we can.
And being as transparent as possible.
Yeah, too. Or give some additional context in the caption or something. Because
context is everything.
I will make a video and then I'll watch it back from like the lens of maybe a new keeper or someone who hasn't watched my content. I'm like, I can anticipate that maybe this piece would like have some additional questions, so I'll try to address it in the caption. And
I will say, you and I are very good about this, and this is one of the best parts about having a reptile bestie, is that we will occasionally, like, if I'm ever looking at my video before posting from like that secondary lens, I will sometimes, if red flags are going up of me being like, that might be taken the wrong way, we'll like send it to each other and be like, hey, is there anything on this that could be taken the wrong way?
That's fine. Or like I would have worded
say this
it
differently, or
this
like
way.
whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like we do that pretty good of like trying to get a gut check just to make sure, like, you know, we're always handling things appropriately. But not everybody has a reptile bestie that they can be like, hey, gut check.
No, or even thinks to like.
Some people might not think about that.
And like you and I are both like very strategic and like critical. In a positive, like not critical, but like, you know, like very particular.
We always want to make sure that we're presenting ourselves and like what we believe in the right way. I think that's just like important, and we always want to make sure that we're coming across the wrong way. We also always want to make sure that we're not going to like offend people or like hurt their feelings, or that we're not thinking about, you know, all the different perspectives that people have. Like, we're both just very good at like assessing that, and not everybody is.
We try.
We try. Yeah, I'm like also please don't take that as me saying
it doesn't always come across, but like definitely well intended, and definitely try to.
We'll always do our best, but other people have not been as lucky.
No, in the internet, we have to remember is whatever someone decides to put out there, and like we can unintentionally jump to all these conclusions or assumptions or like make all these things, and like that's also, I think, what makes the drama so polarizing is like, well, because of this, that must mean all these things about their care, or this animal was treated this way, so that must mean all their other animals are, and maybe that's totally true.
Sometimes it's right.
But maybe it's not. And we need to have some grace and some compassion, and like mindful that we only see snippets.
Which is why when things pop off in the reptile community, like you said in the beginning, we are the two that will always, if you guys are ever wondering if we know what's going on, trust. We know what's going on. We are sitting there with our popcorn. We are not getting involved until we know all the angles of the situation.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to ever speak on anything until it's been like sussed out and everybody's said their piece. And I can then like look at all the sides of it and be like, all right, I more so lean this way because of this and this or whatever. Like, I'm never going to speak on anything until I've seen it from all angles.
I also ask myself the question of like, what benefit to me, to the hobby, to the animals, to my brand, to the conversation, would me speaking out on this thing add to it? And in 99.9% of the cases, the answer is nothing. Yeah. It would add nothing. No. It would add no value. It wouldn't make any difference. So then I'm okay, like personally, just
letting it go.
Yep. Because I'm like, okay, and I can have my opinions, and we can have our own conversations like off camera of like how we feel about things, but that doesn't mean you have to like publicly make a statement or come after an individual, and like totally depends on the nuances. If it's an individual versus a brand, like that can like, it's not a forever thing, but
I will also say, like, if you want to say something, if you think that that is important to say, if you think that what you have to say does bring value to the conversation, if you think that it is important for you to speak on it and you feel strongly about that, do so.
Please do.
Like, this is not to say, I don't want anybody to like hear this and think that we're over here being like, be so cautious, don't say anything, think before all that.
No,
like,
not at all.
So I just do want to say, like, that's
call out,
that's us in particular. Like, I'm always gonna like triple assess something before I say anything, just because I can definitely be a reactive individual, but I try to curb that behavior as best I can, because I also was the child that would always say exactly what was on my mind, and it got me in trouble my entire
life. You just want to be politically correct.
Yes. I just want to make sure that I'm handling it the best possible way. And that's me because of my PTSD as a child of saying all the wrong things all the time. So with that being said, like, if you feel differently, like, please post and say whatever you think is appropriate. But I just always think it's important to look at it through the lens of like, am I bringing value to the conversation? Am I hurting somebody who may be innocent? Am I like, just ask yourselves those questions. And if you feel that what you have to say is still super important and like,
then go for it.
Then please do so. Like, I think
absolutely.
All of that to be said, like, I think that conversations and discussions in the hobby around these dramatic situations and the different things that happen are really incredibly important because it keeps convos going.
No, and you need people to speak up, and you need people to call out when they see something that's not correct or the animal's not being treated correctly. Like, absolutely. Yeah. I just don't usually see those things happen. And so I'd like, usually with the reptile community drama, it's influencer type stuff. And it's like someone wronged someone else or someone did this to the other person.
Most of the time it's like, people to people.
Yeah, I'm like, that has nothing to do with me. Yeah. So why would I get caught up in like, I can't believe they did that or whatever. Then I'm just going to choose to not associate with that person. And like, but I don't need to make a video. Like, I don't need to.
I will say the only times that you will, without a shadow of a doubt, see me speaking on something is when it is something that is more animal centric than like two people fighting. Like, two people fighting, I will never comment on that. That is not my business. Oh, I'm gonna stay in my lane. I'm gonna be over here. But if it is like
something pop in my head, continue. Okay. No. I'm just giggling because I have it in my head.
Okay. Well, basically, like, if it's something that is specific, like with animals, and it's not two people fighting, I'll sometimes make comments. Like, my thought was the Albert the alligator drama. I absolutely made a pretty intense video about that, and I stand by every single thing that I said in that video, and I don't take any of that back. So, like, it's things like that I'll speak up on, but when it's like two people fighting over stuff that's like, I'm like, I'm gonna be in my lane with my popcorn. This is not my business. But
I love popcorn. Okay, so we haven't talked about this on the pod. Okay. And I think at a certain point we had decided that we weren't gonna talk about it
now I'm scared.
on the pod. So this may get cut out of the pod. We'll
TBD.
See. But you're saying of like how animals are. And so one thing that happened was we were at a reptile expo and there was a chameleon breeder that like had some chameleons that were in like rough shape.
I can't believe you're bringing this up.
Rough shape. I had briefly made some comment or in a video of something. It was a video and then someone was like, do you see that? And I was like, yeah, not great.
I think I actually, if I'm remembering correctly, it was a comment that you said. You didn't even post a video.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't like calling out that one person, but I think you in the comments said like, yeah, this wasn't good or something like that.
Yeah. Someone was like, I can't believe like this chameleon was being treated like this. Yeah. And then I got tagged in it or something. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that was like really heartbreaking to see. Nowhere did I like mention the brand or anything. Like, cause again, I don't have the context. Maybe that was a rescue. Yeah. Right.
We have no idea.
Or I literally have not a clue. So like, I'm not one to judge. I was like, whoa, that chameleon's in rough shape. Right. Yeah. Probably shouldn't be sold. Yeah. But then circle back, we go to another expo and that person is there and they said some not nice things under their breath.
It was so uncomfortable. We actually freaked out and had to have like a little powwow in the corner to calm down.
So like first 5 minutes at the expo.
It was so intense. And we like, it was one of those situations where like you said, he said it like under his breath and it was very like quick and in passing and like whatever. But to the point where like you and I were so rattled by it.
I wanted to have words.
Yeah, you were. And I actually had to look at you and be like, this will do nothing good.
But then it goes back to what I was just saying. Of like, what would be accomplished from this? Is this person going to change how they do their business? Mm-hmm. No. Is this person going to think differently of me? No. Am I going to be able to save this animal's life? No. So like, what good would come of this other than like, I would feel better just like as being an individual because I like
said your piece.
Yes.
Right.
But it's not realistically going to make a difference. And that's the only scenario I can personally like think off of the top of my head.
100%.
Would probably be the closest to how I imagine I would feel in like the reptile drama situations. But even in that scenario, I was like, what good.
You also, if I'm remembering the conversation that we had correctly, because we were so shaken up. We literally had to like exit the building. We had to like almost like exit the building, go separate, have like a little powwow because we were both very shaken up by it. And I remember like talking to you about it. You like, I think you were more so like, I don't want this person to think that I was just like bashing them. That's not, because you're such like a kind, respectful individual that like I think it was really bothered you that you thought that somebody like felt like you were bashing them, and so you almost wanted to go and like try to like convince them. And I think I had to be like, nothing you say is going to change their opinion.
Yeah,
nothing you say is going to change that.
Because I will never like go out of my way to drag someone through the mud or a brand or like, and I never did that.
No.
So like my comment that I had posted could not have been about them at all. But I think they knew.
They took it
personally.
Did I
touch that?
Yeah.
Sorry. I can't hear it. But like they took it a type of way, and like I feel like that's more of a reflection of the other person than it is on your response. But I believe I handled myself with like a level of professionalism and like neutrality, if that's a word, in that, and as to not make my comment be taken
the right way, the wrong
type of way. Yeah.
No, you handled that very well. That was a very I forgot about that. That was wild.
But that's probably the closest I've like can experience that. But to your point, it was an animal at like
an expo. Yes.
Yeah, but like their well-being was at risk.
Well, and I think it's important to also note there are those situations that are in person. Mm-hmm. The conversations we're talking about before this are all on the internet.
Yeah. Then it also came onto the internet. And I think that, and then it circled 100%. Back in person. I was like, well, great.
But all that to be said, I think it says a lot. And I think that's another reason why it's so polarizing is because people are behind a screen and they're way more ballsy. They're
keyboard
way more
warriors.
Yes. And so people will get more intense when it's behind the screen, and then in person, it's sometimes a different story.
Well, do you want to talk more about Albert the alligator, in detail? Because some people listening are like, who's that?
Yeah. So we do have like a couple of just like former reptile community drama that's like gone down in the past that we can kind of like just like briefly talk through. And one of those,
or just like assess how they were handled again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like not so much our
I'm not getting into like all the nitty gritty on it. But so one of those was Albert the alligator, which was an alligator that had been kept as a pet, I believe in upstate New York. And they, granted, to the owner's credit, had built this like really big like outdoor like enclosure situation. Not outdoor, I think it was all indoor enclosure situation with like a pool and all this stuff. So like in some kind of light, it looked like, this enclosure was incredible and had, spent a lot of money and a lot of effort and all these things. But then he took one look at the alligator in question, and the alligator in question did not look right.
His name's Albert.
His name is Albert. And poor sweet Albert was not a normal gator. All that being said, there were very clear metabolic bone disease issues, very clear spinal issues, very clear eyesight issues, all kinds of things that have everything and anything to do with proper nutrition for proper growth and all of that. And so it was really polarizing to just look at when you see that. And essentially what happened was this alligator had been seized by the government from this individual who had owned him since the 80s. So it was like a 30 or like maybe the 90s. It was like a 30-year-old alligator. And basically the internet was in an uproar about like, this alligator should live with its owner. That's the person that loves it. They have a bond, this and that, like all these different things. And it was very much the polarizing issue, the like back and forth was that of like this animal should live with its owner, that it's lived with its whole life. It doesn't know anything better. And people were anthropomorphizing I never say that word.
Good word.
I never say that word correctly.
I think you nailed it.
But they were anthropomorphizing this alligator so intensely that they were completely neglecting the fact that this owner had not been properly caring for this animal for the entirety of the 30 years that it has. And that is clear by his condition.
And it looks like because he built this thing for him and all this stuff. And like, you're like, oh, of course. And not to say he didn't care, as in like feeling care.
I think that man loved that gator like his own son. I absolutely think that. And I even said that in the video that I made about it. I was like, this guy doesn't not love him, but frankly, it doesn't matter if you love the animal if you're not caring for it properly.
Right, providing them with what they need.
And you've had 30 years to do the proper research and you still aren't giving it the proper nutrition. So like, yeah, sorry. But like, and on top of all of that, he also had been evading getting his permits because I think something had changed with the permit laws or whatever. And he wanted to be grandfathered into the new permit changes instead of doing what he needed to do, which was make some adjustments to the enclosure that would have benefited the alligator. And he like refused to make those changes and was wanting just to be grandfathered in. And so that was like the gist of all of it. But yeah, that was wild.
And in that scenario, you have a lot of people who are outside the animal hobby who may not be knowledgeable in signs of metabolic bone disease or the nutrition requirements for alligators and UVB and like all these things that they would need. They just see a man who loves his alligator and them getting taken away from him,
pulling on their heartstrings.
Yeah, and then you're like, that's terrible, right? Yeah. And like, but you have to put the full picture together, the well-being of the animal. Yes. And we see this all the time constantly on online reptile, any animal stuff, right? Like you have this little group that's like doesn't have all the information, and then you get scrutinized for being like the reptile police or the animal police or whatever because you're advocating for the animal.
Exactly. Yeah. It's almost time for Valentine's Day, and we have the perfect match for you. Pangea Reptile is playing matchmaker by bundling tons of their most popular items for Valentine's Day savings. You can even pair up any male or female crested gecko for 20% off, or their ledges and any feeding cups, or leaf litter and moss, Pangea gecko food, and a microdish kit. The possibilities and savings are endless. And y'all know how much I love a good halogen heat bulb. Pangea is now carrying Reptile Systems Eco Halogen basking spots to help your critter get all the proper light and heat they need. Learn more at PangeaReptile.com. Hey Reptile girlies, if you're tired of explaining why your spare room looks like a mini Jurassic Park, meet Scratches, the social app where exotic pet owners find their people.
Just add photos of you and your scaly babies, set your filters to reptiles, and start scrolling through local pet parents who get it. No more awkward first date explanations about your ball python collection or why you have a cricket farm.
Whether you're looking for friendship, romance, or someone who can pet sit your beauty, your community is just a match away.
Download Scratches today and start connecting with reptile people in your area. Available on iOS and Android.
Another one that came out, actually, and this wasn't even on our list of ones, but the squirrel in New York.
Yeah, I wasn't going to touch the squirrel.
Oh, we weren't going to touch the squirrel?
I mean, it's just like, because it's
we're not reptile keepers. We're reptile keepers. We're not squirrel people.
I don't know all the wildlife requirements, but it's a very similar type of situation where the people who were rooting for the relationship between the two didn't understand the animal's well-being, and the squirrel ended up having to be euthanized. So it's like, okay, how are you looking out for the animal's well-being if you like killed it? But like there's so much more to it, and it's like it's the bigger picture, and like that again can make it so polarizing when you're talking about like animals that can't speak for themselves.
Yes, 100%.
And well-intentioned people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, the squirrel one was a weird one, and frankly, I don't know enough to talk more about that.
I was like, I was just going to skip past it.
No, 100%. 100%.
Skip past that one.
Okay. So the next one we can talk about, which we've talked about before, is the Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles leopard gecko drama, right?
Yeah.
So like we've kind of said all we needed to say in a different episode. So definitely.
I don't have much to.
Yeah. Go and check that out if you guys want like our full take on that. But that was like a very polarizing internet topic that got really crazy.
And that's one of those where it was like a snippet of information. You had an individual with a larger following up against the rest of the people on the internet who, and it was just like a very like polarizing, like how it was handled from both sides was like very just like hard hitting comments and like these very just like, I don't know, speaking in like absolutes versus opening up as a discussion of like, hey, let's talk about it. Let's challenge the way we keep things, and let's think about how we could do this better moving forward. It was not like that at all.
But I think it landed there by the end of it, right? Like, maybe. I feel like towards the end, it got to the point where it was like a good discussion piece.
For some, I think. For others, I think it did not end that well.
Well,
yeah.
Which
is to be expected, I think.
To be expected. So, okay, this is a funny one because this is actually like my first instance of having reptile community drama myself personally that I was like
really had much,
involved in. And this isn't, when I say involved in, I wasn't like posting videos talking about it or anything. But so I will never forget in 2020, me and a group of girls had come together and put a little clip together. This was like during quarantine when we were all doing nothing. I think it was literally March of 2020 that we did this. But we put together a video where we like passed our reptiles to each other and like edited the video together and then posted it as like a trend to like pass the reptile. And it was so fun. And it like brought me some really great friends in the hobby and all of that. And so it was such a great experience. But after that video came out, there was an Instagram account that was created called the Reptile Police, who then immediately started posting videos like basically claiming that like all these girls had like done something wrong or that like they like hadn't like didn't care for their animals correctly or like whatever. It was wild. And then that Reptile Police account ended up going and attacking a bunch of other people too, but it like started because of our video. And it was crazy.
That's bizarre to me because it was the most innocent.
It was the most innocent.
Video. All it was you would hold your reptile and then move it.
Yeah.
So it looked like it was being passed off screen. And then the next person would grab the angle and hold their reptile and, it was like move them.
And it was like a trending audio. It was like we didn't even say anything in the video.
No, it's more a reflection of your editing skills than
100%,
like 100%. Anything else.
So that was just the weirdest thing. And I remember all those girls and I were just like talking all the time. And then like the first Reptile Police account got taken down because I think a lot of people reported it as like, this is ridiculous.
That's weird.
And then another one popped up and we were like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So that was wild. So just like, all that to be said, like people will create crazy accounts. Like
I had a Neptune Chameleon fan page for a little bit that someone
cute.
Spun up, and I was like, "You go ahead, do that."
I've had a couple of those TikTok accounts too, and they're very sweet.
I love them.
I do really. So fan accounts, we're very pro.
Yes. Positive things. Yes. Coming after people on the internet, not so much.
Not so much. Not quite our favorite thing. So okay, so this was one that. And I don't know if you know a whole lot about this one. I know a little bit about it, but this one is a very important one. And I think that this one isn't so much about the animals involved as it is the people. And this is I'm not going to say his name. The information is out there, but essentially there was this guy, I believe in one of the Carolinas. It was either like North Carolina or South Carolina, wherever it is legal to have venomous reptiles. This guy was a venomous reptile keeper, and he was constantly on the internet posting very, very dangerous free handling of venomous species.
Okay.
And actually said things like anti-venom is for losers. That's not the word that was used.
Fill in the blanks.
Fill in the blanks. But literally said like anti-venom is for losers and was being so irresponsible with this free handling of these like incredibly dangerous to the point where he ended up getting bit and he ended up on a respirator, essentially almost dying in the hospital because he didn't have anti-venom on him. And it was by a taipan, which is one of like correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know anything about venomous species, but I'm 99% sure that a taipan is literally one of the most lethal venomous snakes that you can have.
Oh. No picky.
It's like in the top 2 if it's not the top one. It's like literally one of the most dangerous. And he was just free handling that sucker like nobody's business. So there's those situations in the hobby that are dramatic. And the reason they're dramatic is because those are the situations that can actually cause reptile keepers who are doing all the right things to potentially lose the ability to keep our reptiles if laws are made because of people who are doing the wrong things.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of situations that gets the community really on the same page. And it's not so much polarizing in the sense that anybody's defending the other actions, but more so just like...
No, so you have the legality of it from the keeper side of it, but then you also have the public
public perception.
Of like people who are maybe following this account and then find out that they end up in the hospital, and then just perpetuates the fear of snakes, right? Even though there's plenty of non-venomous species, right? And there are plenty of precautions you can take with handling venomous, but like being mindful there is still a risk associated with that. But like the little garden snake in your yard, right? But like there'll be that level of fear
because of stories like this. Because of situations like this.
And so then the hobby as a whole
gets very protective.
Takes a hit. Right? Because of someone's actions in the public eye that aren't a representation of all the keepers who are taking precautions or trying to do right by their animals in the hobby, and like being mindful that when you are a content creator, you are a representation.
Absolutely.
Of the, I don't know, space, whatever.
The industry.
Yeah,
whatever.
That's a good word.
Yeah. So that was a crazy one. And so I do think it's interesting because the community drama stuff can happen where it splits the community, or it can happen where it's like the whole community is like,
rallying.
You're wrong. That was not cool. And we do not support that. So it's like very interesting, like which way it can go, you know?
No, totally.
So that was one that I just think is important to bring up from a venomous perspective, personally. Then we also have, this is kind of an old one. And I don't know if we didn't talk about this one, but when people do reptile surgeries on YouTube, that has blown up in the past. Yes. Specifically, and I feel very comfortable saying this because it's fine, but it was Nerd, New England reptile distributor. So they, a while ago, did actual like surgeries on reptiles. I don't remember which animal it was, but it was like one video and it blew up. And I think the sentiment of why it blew up and why it was so polarizing was because I think it was essentially insinuating that like, you know, veterinary surgeries like aren't necessarily important if you can do it from home kind of a thing. And people were really upset about that. And so I thought that one was really interesting because that does bring up kind of the question of like, are, you know, vets important? Do you need to go to vets? Like at what stage in your reptile keeping journey do you consider yourself capable of doing things like that? And so that was one that was very fascinating and had a lot of people debating as well.
That's interesting because there are a lot of breeders who do prescribe things to their animals, or with a guidance of a vet of like, hey, I'm thinking this, you good with that? Yep. And then they'll just like do it themselves. And I think it is costly for breeders who have large facilities or like lots of animals that they're overseeing, or with species that are maybe a little more aggressive in mating behaviors that are just higher risk for like something going down or egg, binding or something like that. Then like breeders are going to have that expertise and knowledge to do that. So it's interesting because in what one could see as an effort to bring light to that of like, hey, this is a reality of being a breeder is like you.
And I think that was their intention. I think that was why they did it, was they were like, look, we don't recommend this for other people, but like we do this. And I do understand that perspective. I personally would never be comfortable ever performing a surgery on my animal.
No.
Ever. But I have had situations where, for example, Charlie, my leopard gecko, this is a little TMI and a little gross, but he's getting old, so he's not cleaning himself appropriately anymore. And so he gets like a little bit of a buildup in his hemipeene area. And I had sent him to my vet or taken him to my vet to do that. And I had like reached out to her in advance of bringing him in. And she had actually said like, if you're comfortable, you can actually try to get it out yourself. And I immediately was like, I am not comfortable. I'm terrified he's going to drop his tail. I want nothing to do with that. I want you to do it because you're the professional. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And that was my perspective. And I will always be that way.
I'm making a mental note. We need to do an episode on drop tails because we have not.
We do. That's a great point.
We have not talked about that before. So funny that you
coming soon.
Funny that you say that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm with you. Like there's just some things that like as a keeper. And even in like 20 years, if you're like a long time breeder, then maybe that would change or whatever. And just, I think some people have an innate interest in that. And like, that's an area that they enjoy and would love to explore, and like all the power to you. But it goes back to like the intention behind it, the well-being of the animal, and like
your level of expertise, your level of confidence, like this and that, but also like what's appropriate to share on the internet. You know, that's also a factor.
Not everything.
Not everything. There are things that shouldn't be filmed, you know? So that was one. Were there any others that you kind of wanted to cover? Or do you think we did a good little like roundabout? I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, I would just say like one thing is just touching on reptile businesses.
Yes.
Right? Of like how they handle themselves and like the professionalism that comes out. There can be a lot of reptile community of like someone has a bad experience with a business and then everyone comes out with their pitchforks and like we'll just like bash on that business.
There is also business to business drama, which gets crazy as well.
And it can be very competitive. Like the reptile bubble is not a big bubble.
Tiny.
So it can get very competitive of like pointing fingers and like, well, I had that idea and then they did this and they're copying me and they're doing this. And again, not unique to the reptiles, but just like when we're talking people's livelihood, when we're talking live animals.
Feeding their families.
Like things just get more intense.
Very intense.
And I get that, but then you just have us like little hobbyists over here. And we're like, okay, like,
is it safe to come out now?
Like, is that need to be as big? But like, I get it. You know, I just like it's not my like place to be.
I think also because the reptile community is so small, I feel like there is a little bit of a air of like camaraderie between like reptile businesses, to the point where there is a lot of friendships between businesses. And then because of that, I feel like sometimes people don't feel they need to be as professional or have that like sense of professionalism because it feels like a family business or like friends to friends or like whatever. And so I think because of that, it can get a little bit like, it's like, oh, this is being brought to social media. Interesting choice. Okay. So I feel like that can be really interesting too, but it's because it's such a small world and because they're all friends or they've all like spent weekends together, or they've all whatever. And so it's just an interesting world in that lens.
It's so not how we would personally handle it. No. At all. But it's like, oh, that's a choice.
That's a choice. We're not going to say what kind of choice it is. It's a choice.
It's a choice. Yep. And how they handle it. But I do think there's also that element of like the business piece of it and how brands respond to things and how they...
And also how like people who aren't in it from a business standpoint respond to things that are from the business standpoint too. So...
Yep.
Interesting.
That I just want... And I currently have things floating in my head, but I think I'm best to just not say any specifics. And you can fill in the blanks for yourself. But.
No, I think that does the topic justice. You know, it's like we said, we're not going to get into an episode or a video where we're pointing people out, calling people out, pointing fingers, doing all that stuff. Like, that's not how we roll. But I do think it's important to talk about of just kind of how it all kind of happens and why it happens the way it does. And it's juicy stuff, man.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts. Just don't ask us our thoughts on a specific scenario because we will likely just...
Or you can, and we may or may not answer. Probably not.
Right. Just putting it out there that if your comment got skipped,
there's a reason. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, well, I think our next little segment, moving right along.
Round us out. Yep.
So we are going to do another little, are you the type of girl to? And so our question this time is, are you the type of girl to wear jewelry? And if so, jewelry, do you prefer rings or necklaces? Or kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, did I say that right?
Yeah, I think that was very well.
That's what we had written down, but I didn't triple check my notes. So.
No, I think that's good. I'm not a big ring person.
I'm an ultimate ring girly. You can for all the non-YouTube listeners, you can hear all my rings clicking and clacking.
Yes. Yeah. I have one ring that I wear permanently.
Mm-hmm. Right? You've had that for, you've always worn that.
Many years. Mm-hmm. Many years. And it's a representation of something that's like near and dear to my heart. So it's not a fashion statement.
It's a personal choice.
It's like the equivalent of like getting a tattoo to commemorate some special thing, right? So like this is what this ring is for me. It is not because I was like, I'm not a big ring person. I'll wear like one funky ring. Like I have one that's like a key that's like bent into like a cool shape.
Yeah,
like I love those types of stuff, but they're not like an everyday piece of it. And I do love necklaces. I don't like having to take necklaces on and off.
I hate taking necklaces on and off.
So I would wear them more often and I would switch them out more often if it wasn't such a pain to take them on and off.
Especially when you have nails.
Yes.
That's a nightmare.
So when I put a necklace on, it's very much with the thought of like, okay, I'll wear this for like the next however many days before I take it off. But then I do a lot of like HIIT workouts and I get pretty sweaty. And then I like worry about tarnishing the jewelry because I'm getting sweaty or like sleeping in it or whatever. So like truly, I'm a big earrings person.
Yes, you are.
And I'm a little sad because I don't wear earrings on the pod because I usually wear headphones.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing headphones right now. So I could have worn my cute earrings and I didn't because I forgot my headphones.
Such a bummer.
But I love earrings.
You do.
And like I change out my...
You change yours out pretty frequently.
Yeah, my first soul piercings. I'll do danglies. I'll do cute studs. I'll do like crazy ones. I'll do simple ones. Like earrings are like... I know that wasn't one of the options that you said.
No, that's okay.
You said rings and necklaces.
No,
but
I was going to talk about earrings too. So you good. You
so
good.
Earrings are my like happy
favorite
place.
Yeah.
As far as like expressive jewelry.
No, for sure. And I'm also...
Pause for comments.
I'm also a very big earring person, as you well know. I am... Not so much, it's not that I'm not an earring person because I very much am, but I am more so an ear piercing curating person.
Yeah. So
does that make sense?
Yes. Because the way for people who are listening going, so like I will switch mine out constantly because I want like different vibes. You will
I never change mine.
Yours are permanently like you will pick certain earrings for certain piercings next to a different one for a particular look.
Yes.
And once you craft it, you're like, it's perfect. And then you don't...
I don't touch it for
don't
years.
Mess with it.
Years. Like I actually, maybe I'll post on Instagram or TikTok sometime soon of like my little earscape because I've recently updated it and I am obsessed with how it's turned out. It is so perfect. But I am really big on ear piercings. I have planned my ear piercings since I was 16 years old and I have slowly gotten them over the last 15 years. And I literally used to Photoshop earrings on my ear to make sure that I liked the placement. So I am a psycho about my earscape. And that's what I like to call it, my little earscape.
Because you're a big earring person, but not in that you're constantly changing them. It's just that like it's a part of your like
and the only
brand identity, self-expression.
Yes,
there we go.
Yes, and the only ear piercing that I will swap out, like if the occasion makes sense for it, is my like first lobe hole. That one I will swap out for the occasional statement earrings if it like makes sense, or if I want to make a statement with the earrings, I will. But all the other ones, like those suckers do not come out ever. Those stay in there forever. But on the like, I think our original question was like, are you a ring girly or a necklace girly? I am definitely also a big ring girly. I love the rings. I specifically love crystal rings. Like I'm also a big crystal girl. I've collected rocks since I was a toddler. So I love crystals and they're littered everywhere around my house, but they are also always on my hands. And so I love, love, love a lot of rings. Like I actually used to have a thumb ring forever that I wore for years and years and years. And then one day I just like stopped wearing it and I haven't put on a thumb ring since. So that's actually like the only finger that I don't really wear them on as much anymore. But I'm a big ring girly. I love rings. I also love finding cool rings, like when or if you're like traveling or something. That's like one of my favorite things. And like vintage looking ones or even truly vintage ones like at thrift shops and things like that. Like I love a good ring find. I think they're such fun like personality statement pieces. And so I love rings.
I'm just waiting for the big one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's the one I'm like, ooh, I'll wear that one.
That's a good one. I think that also changed the way that I did my rings for a long time.
Oh, it makes total sense.
Because that becomes your permanent one. And so it switches it up. I love necklaces, but I am particular about necklaces. Like I was in college during the 2012 business attire to the club era. And so I wore a lot of statement necklaces out to bars and clubs.
All the dangly, like chunky ones.
God, you could never pay me to wear those things again. Like
those, yeah. Did you ever like the tank tops and shirts that had the necklaces like stitched into it?
Yes.
You remember those?
I didn't wear them, but I remember that era.
Yep.
For sure. That was
I just
wild.
dated myself, but it's fine.
No, me too. That was like in middle school for me. That was like a long time ago. But no, so yeah, not a huge necklace girly. If I wear necklaces, it's going to be all gold or gold with a crystal. Like that's pretty much the only necklaces that I will rock.
She does rock one necklace that I got you.
Yes.
And I am honored to like make the cut.
It is one of my favorites.
Because you wore it when you first got, but then you like continue to wear it.
Yeah.
After the fact, I was like, oh, she must like actually like it.
I love it. And it was the sweetest, most thoughtful gift ever. You are so good at gifting. I'm not as good at gifting as you are. And I love that. And I have a lot of people in my life. Actually, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law got me this sweatshirt, which has a leopard gecko on it. And they are incredible gifters. It is like
perfect for you.
It's so perfect. I love that. I always look forward to their gifts. Your gifts are always amazing. But it's a tiny little gold paw print. And it has Campbell, my dog's name, engraved on the back, which is like the sweetest thing. And so I do wear that one a decent amount. And it's because it's all gold. And I like the all gold. I like very simple, dainty jewelry. And that is definitely you could not have picked that out better.
Thank you. Yes. I ordered a few for like some like close people, and I got one for myself and like a few friends that like have dogs or whatever. And I got all of them silver, and then I got you yellow gold because I was like, I know
I don't do silver.
No, but then like these other people that got like I know they do silver. So I was like, okay, so I gotta get you this one, and
which if you happen to be one of the few men listening to this podcast, we appreciate you, and you are a reptile girly.
Also, if you're still listening at this point in the podcast, after we already started this segment,
they're probably all gone. But if you have women in your life and you ever buy jewelry for them, make sure that you know if they are a gold girly or a silver girly, because that is a big thing with women.
Yes, and that's true of anyone, like friends buying it or like for your girlfriend, whatever, like
whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and don't sleep on the rose gold.
Yeah, no,
rose gold. Because some people do really like rose gold.
My cousin has a gorgeous engagement ring that is rose gold, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, that was such a trend," but she loves it. And
that's what matters.
That's what matters.
I'm going back and forth on my future engagement ring to the person who I haven't even started dating yet, but of like, would I prefer white gold or yellow gold? Because I love the timeless classic look of yellow gold, but a lot of jewelry that I wear is white gold. Yeah. So I go back and forth, but like for whatever reason, and maybe it's because my parents had yellow gold, but like that's in my head is like what
and also some people love to mix the metals, right?
I don't.
Like I don't either. I'm like I said, I'm all gold, and actually some of my current rings that I'm wearing, the gold has like started to wear off, and I'm really upset about that actually, because now it looks like I'm wearing silver, and I don't wear silver, but it's fine. But
you definitely look silver.
I know. I'm like kind of pissed about it, but it's fine. Everything's fine. But like my earrings are all 14 karat gold. I'm very particular about that. I don't skimp out. I like save my money
since
for my rings.
In your ear like 24/7. So
and I think I'm gonna have to start making that rule for my rings now too. I think I'm gonna have to like just start buying more expensive jewelry and saving up for it instead of getting the stuff that wears off, unfortunately. Yeah. But I had to have that lesson with my earrings because they would all turn silver, and I was like, I don't like this.
Right.
And so
probably not great for your ear.
No.
Anyways, I have that like.
Yeah. And a lot of people have ear sensitivities with piercings too. So I fully get that. I'm lucky I don't have that many sensitivity issues, but I know a lot of people do. So that's our whole
there you have it, folks.
Spiel on jewelry.
Yeah.
Super fun. Super little girly topic there at the end to round us out.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
I was going to give a shout out to our merch.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm wearing it.
I could tell that you wanted to say something. Like, the awkward pause was because I could tell you wanted to say something. So I was like, hold on.
If you're interested in the Wild Type Podcast merch,
heck yeah,
check it out. It's always linked in the description or on our socials. We also have Cute in My Reptile Mom era, a Reptile Girly merch. We've got hats, we've got water
containers.
Canisters?
I personally love the hat. It's it's one of my favorites. I like to wear it because it's such like a subtle like brand shout out, but that's one of my favorites. I love that one.
So appreciate you and thank you in advance if you do decide to buy some merch. Yeah. But otherwise, I'll pass it back off to you. I just wanted to plug it because I was wearing it today. No, I forgot.
That was perfect. I love that. Well, yeah. So I think that rounds us out for the day. Go shop our merch if you would like to. You can find us everywhere on the Wild Type Podcast, and that's Instagram, YouTube, all the socials.
Maybe TikTok.
Maybe TikTok if it's still around. We don't know. We'll keep you posted. Who knows? But so all the different social things, and you can find me at Lyssa's Lizards everywhere.
Me, Neptune the Chameleon.
And we will catch you girlies next week.
See ya.
Bye.